Good morning. Going to do this a little bit different. We're going to have the roll call before we sing O Canada, God Save the Queen. I'd ask the veterans to process up and bring the wreath as I call out their names. I think we're ready. First on our list is Louis Bernarchet, Captain, retired, Royal 22nd Regiment, Vendu. Louis joined the militia on the Officer Cadet Training Plan at age 17. He did his basic training at the Citadel in Quebec City and signed up for the regular forces at age 19. He attained his BA at age 21 and joined the regiment as second lieutenant. He went on the paratroop course and retired as a captain in 1980. Well done, Louis. Come on, sorry, Louis, come on up and stay, please. Leith Coughlin, Captain, and the Adjutant of the 1st Hussars. Leith joined the Canadian Army in 2005 as an armor officer. He has served in all operational appointments in the regiment and spent a significant amount of time as an instructor at locations such as the Royal Canadian Armor School at CFB Gagetown, New Brunswick, and the 4th Canadian Division Training Centre in Meaford, Ontario. He is the recipient of the 31st Canadian Brigade Group Commander's Commendation in 2012 and will be awarded the Canadian Forces Decoration in the spring of 2018 prior to retirement next fall. Well done, Leith. Anthony Halpin, I don't see him, but we are remembering him. Private Electric Optic Systems Technician. Anthony did his basic training in St. John and occupational training in Kingston, Ontario. He was posted to 2nd Service Battalion and attached to the Canadian Special Operations Regiment. And Anthony served 3 years. Thank you for your service, Anthony. Garth Romkey, Leading Seaman. Garth served from 1980 to 1990 in HMCS Marguerite, HMCS Skeena, and HMCS Ottawa. And Garth is not here, but well done, Garth. Charles Chuck Stewart, Petty Officer, 2nd Class, Naval Electronic Technician. Chuck served in 1991 in the Gulf and the Kuwait War. Received medals for service with a special medal for serving 270 days with NATO forces. He received a peacekeeping medal in Haiti and served a total of 22 years with Canadian forces. Again, well done. Beverly Walker, come on up, Bev. Beverly served 3 years in the RCAF. She married an airman and spent the next 16 years as a military dependent. Congratulations, Bev. Martin Van Wert. Marty served 3 years for the Royal Canadian Navy from 1960 to 1963. as a radar pilot on the aircraft carrier HMCS Bonaventure. Thank you, Marty. Dave McMillan. Is Dave here? Come on up, Dave. RCAF. Dave served in the Royal Canadian Air Force from 1965 to 1971. He was stationed in Downsview, Ontario, Goose Bay, Labrador, and Gagetown, New Brunswick. While in Gagetown, he studied at the University of New Brunswick and St. Thomas University in Fredericton as part of the University Training Plan for Men. Well done, Dave. At this time, I hope I have not missed anyone who has service. If you do, please identify yourself and come on up. And if you know someone that's a bit shy, like we had Marty for years, remember us next year and make sure they're here. It is a solemn ceremony. We remember, and certainly remember the ones that have gone before and are not with us now. And some of those are recent, some of them, a couple weeks ago I was standing back there before a collection and I looked on the boards there back there and one of my uncles was there, Art Gregory, so it's, that's 70, 75 years ago, but we remember them all. Do we have anyone else who's served and would like to come with us forward? Don't be shy. At this time we're going to say our anthems, and I'd ask the people to stay here.
poppies blow between the crosses, row on row that mark the place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amidst the guns below. We are the dead Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
They number a dozen upon my return. We're 100 or so from the coast and the prairies. I bet they can come. Add one more name from Ontario and carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with their flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True name, true love, they were I serve the distinction, no vision of glory. I serve without question, a personal gain. Seek no justification, it's not part of my story, and it's offering no comfort to the ones who remain. Just carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with their flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True major love, there will never be more. Took up my vocation, I was called by my nation. Without hesitation, my answer I gave. Now I am not wondering of things that might happen. I'm no consolation to the forgotten brave. So carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with their flags flying. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True major love, there will never be more. So carry me home down the highway of heroes. People above with their flags flying low. Carry me softly down the highway of heroes. True patriot love, there will never be more.
The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. These things I command you, so that you will love one another. The Gospel of Christ.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. In the summer of 1982, a U.S. Navy officer walked up to the trench where the concrete foundation of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. was being poured. A foundation to hold a V of black granite rising out of the earth, etched with 58,196 names of men and women who died or are missing in combat. The Navy officer stood over the trench for a moment, then tossed something into it and saluted. When a workman asked him what he was doing, he said he was giving his dead brother's Purple Heart to the wall. That was the first offering. Since then, more than 30,000 objects and letters have been left at the wall, most without explanation. There are autographed baseballs and marijuana joints and bottles of whiskey. There are new baby shoes. A note explains for a baby who would never be. And birthday and anniversary cards, Christmas trees, ornaments, and a golf trophy for a friend. A letter explaining, because to quote, "It's a beautiful sunny day. We'd be playing golf. I'd be beating you by 2 strokes, sucker." What is left are both unusual and ordinary things. Toys of sons and brothers, badges and dog tags, birthday cards from mothers, notes from girlfriends, one simply saying, "After 20 years, I am still mad." In the offering, people seek to come to terms with what they have lost and what in losing must be saved. It's a place like the Canadian National Vimy Memorial in France, Memorial in France, and our local Cenitas here in St. Thomas. It is a place like country cemeteries where little mementos like toy cars and Holy Mary figurines and angels are tucked beside a young man or woman's grave, and church sacred burial grounds where people come alone or together. They come in the day, they come at night to confront, to hope, to make peace, to pray, to reflect, and heal. And with those remembered, make communion with the dead, with those whom we call by God's direction the communion of saints, because of God's great love for them. In Canada, we remember what we have lost and what we saved. Now, on November the 9th in 2009, Captain Malou was among the 46 first recipients of the Canadian Sacrifice Medal awarded at Rideau Hall by the Governor-General of Canada. Injured while on duty in Afghanistan in 2006. His leg amputated, he since returned to duty in Afghanistan. And while acutely aware of what he had lost, it seems that this captain became a strong advocate for wounded soldiers and an avid amputee runner and a serviceman. So he has done much with what was saved. And that's a good question for Remembrance Day, Sunday. What have you done with what was saved? Documentaries and newspaper retrospections make all too real the human cost of the wars we mark today. What have we done with what was saved by the great efforts, the whole of it, summed up in all those stories of struggle, suffering, courage, and loss? A letter dated the 28th of July, 1944, was written by Mrs. Bavis to Mrs. Blower, and I'd like to read it to you. My dear Mrs. Blower, I feel I want so much to write to you, although I know nothing that I can say to comfort you could be of much help. I do feel that at least you know how we grieve with you, as our son Alistair was fatally wounded by the same shell which hit your son John. Alistair was unconscious from the first moment and died at the evacuation station and is buried nearby at Hermanville, Demure. Now we wish he too had been killed at once and had been laid to rest with your John and Hugh Ward by those he had fought with and who knew him, but this had not to be. Alistair spoke with such admiration and affection of your son, who was his troop leader. He must have been a very fine lad, and I feel that their marvelous young spirits can never die, and that they together will go into battle with the others to inspire and encourage them. They were both doing the most unselfish thing when this happened, going to the aid of their men, and surely this will not go unrewarded. How sincerely and deeply I grieve with you, and how I understand. May God comfort you. My husband joins me in sending his sincere sympathy, and I do so hope you will not take this as an intrusion. Very sincerely yours, Doris S. Bavis. So a mother called Doris began in the agony of her loss to answer the question, what does this mean? She began out of the things that bind us together, of comradeship, parenthood, fear, duty, danger, purpose, loss, to weave the deepest of hurts into the web of meaning. She began to hear in the language of her own breaking heart the spirit of eternal love that conquers all that hurts and harms. And so it is for us and for those who visit the Vietnam Wall and many memorials, looking for some way to cross from loss and honor in remembering to hope and meaning in living into the future. On any given day, even up to today and beyond, at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall, objects will be left and prayers will be said. From armbands and helmets, barrettes and Bibles and boots, crosses and rosaries, to Jack Daniel bottles and Budweiser cans, buttons and teddy bears, and flags and funeral folding, M&Ms and medals, there's a lollipop tree, lots of letters, and brown packages of cookies marked return to sender. Hats and socks, a Hershey's Kiss, 2 cans of Spam, and a native quilt. Offerings are made. These are some of the thousands of gifts left at the wall and later stored in Lincoln Memorial. Having been myself there to stand before this wall, I offered a prayer. And later, I came across a book that photographed some of the messages, and 3 in particular stood out that I want to leave you with. One involves 2 cans of Spam, another a native quilt designed with symbols to represent warmth and safety, and the other a simple photograph of a father and daughter. Native American tribes create elaborate and colorful quilts, often made with the memories of the tribes woven into them. What many people do not know is that they have an unwritten law governing the art of quilting. Every quilt must have some flaw. Even when they could easily produce the perfect quilt, they go out of their way to introduce a flaw into it. And since the quilt for them is basically a representation of human life and the human condition, the symbolism is clear. No human life is perfect. In a way, at the Feast of All Souls and Saints, which we celebrate at this time along with Remembrance Day, we hear the echoing the same message. No precious life is perfect, not even the Christian life or the life of a valiant man or woman in service. The good news we celebrate today is that God loves us even when we are not perfect, and that the love of God does not abandon the souls of the departed, brothers and sisters, in the faith even when they did not measure up to the ideals of Christian perfection. For those who have borne the burden and duty of service, we know comes with it, as for all of us in different ways, regrets, remorse, particularly sometimes for even surviving when other precious ones did not. A man who had been in the 101st Airborne left at the Vietnamese Veterans Memorial Wall a photo of a North Vietnamese man posed with a young girl and wrote a letter. Dear Sir, for 22 years I have carried your picture in my wallet. I was only 18 years old that day we faced one another on that trail in Chu Lai, Vietnam. Why did you not take my life? I'll never know. You stared at me for so long, armed with your AK-47, and yet you did not fire. Forgive me for taking your life. I was reacting just the way I was trained to kill. So many times over the years I have stared at your picture and your daughter, I suspect. Each time my heart and guts would burn with the pain of guilt. I have 2 daughters myself now. I perceive you as a brave soldier defending his homeland. Above all else, I can now respect the importance that life held for you. I suppose that is why I am able to be here today. It is time for me to continue the life process and release my pain and guilt. Forgive me, sir. On another day, it is not a letter, but 2 vintage tins of sardines that are left at the wall. A special forces soldier long ago, desperate for a smoke, had broken into a friend's footlocker and snatched a carton, intending to pay for it with 2 cans of sardines. But before he could do so, the friend was killed. After keeping the sardines for 20 years, the borrower sought out his friend's name on the wall and finally gave him the cans. The hope is not in vain, for it is God's desire that we all find ways to continue in the life journey of healing, of seeking peace, of releasing guilt. All of us carry burdens, and all of us need to offer something from what we have lost, whether in anger or hurt, into a future of hope. Hope finds what needs to be said and takes it to a place that can make us and this world better. Amen.